I know people who have written off General Motors ever since their bailout and the closure of their Canadian manufacturing plants. But lately it seems like the automaker has been firing on all cylinders across all of their brands and price points. Just take a look at Chevrolet, where you can get an affordable Trax, an awesome Corvette, a pretty fun to drive Colorado, and a ton of electric vehicles as well. And when you go to Cadillac, well, the Escalade is better than ever. You've got high-performance V and Blackwing vehicles, and a couple of electric vehicles to play with as well. And as for Buick, well, they're not dead yet. All jokes aside, today I've got the 2025 Cadillac Optiq, which is meant to compete with the Audi Q4 e-tron, the Mercedes EQB, and the Genesis GV60. Now, the Optiq has a couple of things that help it stand out against that really nice lineup of competition. So let's take a closer look and see if it's worth your hard-earned money. It may not look it, but this is one of the biggest cars in its segment, with a longer overall length and wheelbase compared to its rivals. Honestly, it doesn't look that big due to the design. It hides this really cool rear end with this window that is actually a window and not a quarter panel. But beyond that, the large wheelbase allows General Motors to stuff as many batteries as they can here. And this is one of the biggest batteries in the segment as well, offering 85 kilowatt hours. Well, actually it's like 89, but in order to preserve the battery's lifespan and ensure really good durability, they kind of let you use only 85 kilowatt hours of it anyways. I'm sure other reviews have covered this across the Driving.ca lineup, but that's how it works. Now, that huge battery allows for a pretty impressive driving range of over 480 kilometers on a single charge. That's better than some of the rivals, which offer about 460 at their best. But there are some downsides to this battery technology. The peak charging rate is around 150 kilowatts, and it doesn't stay at that peak for very long. In fact, the charging curve is all over the place. Once you surpass the 60% mark, that charging rate drops to below 100 kilowatts. So it might take about an hour to get this car from 10 to 90%, and that doesn't sound very luxurious or fast at all. While we're talking numbers, pop the trunk and you'll find that there's over 700 liters of cargo room, which is more than any of the other rivals in this segment. And when you fold down the rear seats, you're greeted to 1,600 liters of cargo room, which is pretty good, but 100 liters shy of the Mercedes EQB. More than having space for all of your stuff, the Optiq has a ton of room for your friends and family. You can easily put 4 adults in here, and I've had no issues putting my rear-facing car seat in the back without impacting the front driver's seat. In addition to that, the Optiq has a really impressive interior design. Like other EVs in the segment, it wants to emphasize sustainable and recycled materials within the upholstery and trim, and they've done a really good job. There's this cool textured fabric up here on the door panels and alongside the console. But in addition to that, there's a trim here that incorporates recycled newspapers. Now, I thought they would just pulp that up and put it in there, but you actually see some sheets of newspaper in here and some words. Hopefully all of that newspaper wasn't used for house training a dog or my previous harsh takes on the XT4 and XT6. But all jokes aside, this is one of the most stylish cabins I've been in. And in comparison to other luxury vehicles, it doesn't feel stuffy or sterile. There's a lot of fun in here. I think that's really cool. It doesn't seem old school. It's youthful. I love that. And there's a ton of ambient lighting and light signatures to give the car more life. That's a good thing. In addition to all of that design, there's a ton of technology here as well. There's a 33-inch curved display with a 9K resolution. That's high-tech stuff. This area is a touchscreen used for infotainment duties, and there's a control knob here. But you better get used to this interface because Cadillac does not allow you to use a smartphone projection system like Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And over here on the left side of the car is a control panel for a bunch of different things like the headlights or the trip computer, or you can set it to show your driver assistance features. In addition to all that technology, there's a lot of standard equipment in the Optiq. For example, there's heated and massage front seats. There's an option for a head-up display. There's a standard 19-speaker AKG sound system. And if you opt for some of the higher trims, all you get is more cameras, that head-up display, and that's about it. But look, all of this car seems so fancy inside, but what's it like to drive? Let's hit the road and I'll tell you all about it. All-wheel drive is always commonplace in electric vehicles like this, but it's important to discuss how that all-wheel drive is delivered. In the Optiq, you've got 300 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. Up front is a permanent synchronous motor, which is typically your usual propulsion system. But at the back is an induction motor. Now typically other EVs flip the position of the induction and the PSM, but it feels pretty good in this vehicle. Sure, this thing isn't going to pin you back in your seat, but GM is bringing an Optiq V with over 500 horsepower to do that. In general, I mean, just getting around town with this car is really easy to do. You'll have no problem making passes on the highway, which is important. And you can have a little bit of fun as well. Braking is a little bit of a tough thing to discuss because this car weighs over 5,100 pounds. It must have something to do with all of those batteries. As a result of all of that weight, the vehicle can feel a little dicey when it comes to urgent or emergency stops. In general driving, you can get away with almost anything. I mean, it's fine as long as you know how far in advance you're going to need to be braking. But when it comes to emergency situations, yeah, I didn't quite love that. There is a neat little gimmick here in a pressure-sensitive paddle shifter which adjusts the regen on demand. I don't think it's going to be useful for the everyday commute, and it might be fun to play with here and there, but it's different. It makes the car stand out in its own little way. You pull this paddle a lot to get a ton of regen braking, or just a little bit to get just a tiny bit of regen braking. Driving dynamics, on the other hand, is a bit of a mixed bag. I really find the Optiq to handle the corners pretty well, especially given the size of the vehicle. But when it comes to driving around town, I get a lot of vertical movement and bobbing. It just doesn't feel that comfortable, and that's a really important thing to point out because the other vehicles in this class, well, they nail it when it comes to comfort and driving dynamics. It's not enough for GM to just nail it at one thing, it has to be comfortable as well. On the other hand, the Cadillac has something that those other vehicles just can't compete with, and that's Super Cruise. That's a hands-free, semi-autonomous driving feature that allows you to cruise on the highway with your hands off the wheel. It works really well on pre-mapped roads, and every year it seems like GM is adding more and more roads to the system, and features as well. So this thing will change lanes for you when you need to, and will cruise along on most of Canada's major highways. It comes with a 3-year standard subscription for this feature. After 3 years, this is something you're going to have to pay for, but it stands out as one of the most impressive features in the GM portfolio. It's just impressive all the way around. Not only is Super Cruise standard, but all of the other safety features are standard as well. So you've got lane keeping and adaptive cruise control and forward collision warning and parking sensors and all that jazz. Just up the entry-level model. When it comes to price, I think you're getting quite a lot of car. It starts at around $63,000 and the top end trims are around $67,000. Now my vehicle has a few extra bonuses like the paint and the wheels, which bumps that price to around 70 grand. I actually think that's pretty competitive given the other vehicles in this class and how much more this car delivers. It has more range, it has lots of space, it has a unique hands-free driving system. All of that seems to be worth it. If you've been holding back on Cadillac due to GM's previous struggles, it's time to give it up. Come on, who holds a grudge for that long? When it comes to the Optiq, given the price point, this thing is loaded with awesome technology, tons of feature, and a huge driving range. I honestly think it's one of the best choices in this segment. For Driving.ca, I'm Sammy Haj-Assaad.